Welcome back to Illustrator for Cartographers. We're about to really get started here and make this look more and more like a map. So I think the next thing that we need to do is add some land in here. Let's say that we're trying to map some coastal area with maybe some islands. So we want to put those in. I want to make sure that I keep this very, very organized as far as the layers go. So I've already got the frame, as you see down here, that I've got it colored in with what at the moment anyway is my base color for my ocean. In order to make sure that I don't accidentally grab it, select it, and move it around like that, undo, I'm going to lock it. Now it's impossible for me to grab that frame, and it will just stay there while I work on another layer. So let's add in the basic land. If I go down here to the layers, you'll notice that this icon says Create New Layer. That's exactly what I want to do. So I'm going to click it, and I get a new layer, now called Layer 2, but I think I'm just going to call it Base Land. And this is going to be the basic landforms for the map. There are many different ways I could do that. Let me just show you one that involves using the pencil tool. The pencil tool is a great cartographic tool, and it's right here. The pencil tool is fantastic for drawing in freehand shapes. All I have to do is hold down, and I can just draw whatever I like. Notice what happened right here. I drew out this shape, and it's not a completely closed polygon. You can see that there's two different ends here. Using the pencil tool, I can just sort of trace over those, and it will adjust that part that I'm drawing. So this is very, very handy. You can draw things out and then come back and manipulate a form that you've already created very, very easily. So let's use this to create some basic organic shapes for the land. I'm going to clear this layer. This little corner right there, a little teeny tiny corner right there, if I select it, let me deselect everything that I've got. If I click that corner, now everything in that layer is selected. And that, again, if you've got your project organized to different layers, makes it very, very easy to say, hey, quickly I need to select all of the basic land. Okay, well, if that's all in one layer, you can very easily select all of it. I'm going to go ahead and delete that and start over. Okay, so I want to draw in some coastline here. So I'm going to just start. Now notice, even though I said I want to make sure that the coastline, or the land rather, fits within the frame, I'm not really going to worry about that too much. I want to have one solid polygon, and then this is all going to be outside, so I can just loop back around and then connect it with my original line. Now I have this form which is going to start being the land. If I don't like the way that it looks, well, as long as I have it selected, I can come through here and adjust how the line looks. Whoops, see what happened there? That drew a new line rather than adjusting the one that I wanted. That probably means I did not start close enough to the line existing. So I'm going to undo that and then redo it. All right. Maybe that's the way I want the coastline to look in this particular map. Now, how do I make sure that the land is not outside of the frame? Because as you see, if I come through here and I put in some kind of green color, I'm covering up everything here, and that's no good. There are multiple ways to do this, but here's one of the ways that I like. I'm going to temporarily lock my land and unlock the frame and select everything in it. Now I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, and then lock the frame, and then go up to my base land. By the way, if you've got multiple layers, do you see how this one is turned bluish and this one's still black? And I can toggle here, so that click here and make this one blue, and so forth. Whichever one you have selected in blue is the one that you'll be drawing your shape into whenever you're drawing anything. So right now I'm drawing in the base land. Right here I could draw in the frame, except for I can't draw in the frame because it's locked. See, if I pull out my pencil and I start drawing, oh, nothing happens. Why isn't anything happening? Well, yes, I'm in the frame layer, but it's locked. So I'm going to go back up to base land and I'm going to unlock it so that I can draw in it. Now I'm going to go Edit and Paste in Front. I want you to note the difference between the Paste and the Paste in Front tool. When you say Paste in Front, it pastes whatever it is you had copied into your document exactly on top of whatever it was that you had just copied. So I copied the frame and I said paste in front. That guarantees that that frame is sitting exactly on top of the other frame in the other layer. If I just said paste, paste will just put a copy of whatever it is that you had copied sitting in the center of the document. Sometimes that's fine, but it's very, very useful in order to make sure that you keep things perfectly aligned to use paste in front if you're trying to paste a copy of something exactly on top of something else. Now, if I went to no fill here, you would be able to see that, okay, I put in a copy of my frame exactly on top of my old frame, but in the base land layer. Now, I'm going to select both. Since there are only two things, I'm just going to drag. Now I have both that copied frame and the land shape that I just drew selected, right? I now want to use the Pathfinder tools, and the Pathfinder tools are extremely useful. I'm going to go to Window, because I don't think I have them turned on, and I'm going to go down here to Pathfinder. Ordinarily, I like to keep my Pathfinder tools down here. Just personal preference, you could put them up here, wherever. The Pathfinder tools are going to help you make sure that you can create forms that perfectly match up to other forms very quickly, very easily, and very neatly. Because just like when you're trying to digitize something in GIS, you don't want to have to go and redraw any type of line here in Illustrator. For instance, I really don't want to come through here and try to perfectly redraw this frame with this landform shape. I want the computer to take care of making sure they're perfectly aligned as well. If you look at the Pathfinder tools, you're going to find that a lot of them seem very familiar to you if you're familiar with vector-based geoprocessing inside your GIS analytical software. A lot of the different Pathfinder tools have equivalents in the geoprocessing functions. So let's take a look right here. I've got Unite, Minus Front, Intersect, and Exclude. What I want is just to preserve the area where the frame and the landmass intersect. So I'm going to click that. Now take a look at what I've got. It got rid of that gigantic loop that I had outside of the frame, and it cut it so that it's perfectly matched up. Now it took away my color, but that's okay. Let me get that back real fast. I'm going to go over here and then go back to a particular color green. Maybe that one. Okay. Now I'm going to click out here to deselect. Now I've got a landmass that's fitting exactly within my frame, and I didn't have to go through and try to retrace anything. Now let's try putting in some islands. Putting in the islands may actually be simpler than putting in the main landmass, because I'm not going to have to worry about having the islands overlap the frame. But if you want your islands to overlap the frame, that's no problem. You can go about making sure that it perfectly matches, just like we did with the main landmass. First of all, let's zoom in. I want to zoom in here, so I want to show you that. This tool right here, the Zoom tool, allows you to click and drag and zoom into a particular area. So now I'm up close with my water here. You can always check down here to see how far in or out you're zoomed. For instance, right now I'm zoomed in to 178.6%. There's also some options to here to drop down for different levels of zoom. Fit to screen is always very nice. You can get back and take a look at how your map looks full screen there. 100% is also very important to look exactly at the size that your map is going to be, and then zoom in and zoom out. But oftentimes I just grab the magnifying glass and zoom into the area that I'm trying to work in. So here I am zoomed into the ocean. Let's try putting in some islands. So I'm going to grab the pencil tool and I'm going to start drawing again. Make sure that your path is closed. That way you're creating perfect little polygons which will become the base of the land. I want to show you a couple of different options with this pencil tool. First of all, you'll notice that you can drag out on the pencil tool to come up with also a smooth tool and an erase tool if you'd like to smooth a line or erase it. But I also want to point out that if you double click on the pencil tool, you have some different options about how it behaves. The fidelity here controls exactly how closely the path that Illustrator draws follows either your mouse or your pen if you're using a graphics tablet to draw. The smoothness option increases or decreases the amount of those anchor nodes that are going to be in the path that's drawn. So if you're looking for very smooth, very flowing, very fluid kinds of strokes, you might want to increase the smoothness value of the pencil tool. So if you need to, you could adjust either of those to get the kind of appearance that you're trying to get with your map. What if I turn fidelity and smoothness really far up, and then I try to come in here and draw this island here? You can see in this case that the shape that was drawn does not closely follow the path that my cursor made when I drew the shape. So I'm going to go back to my original settings and 0. And then I'll also point out down here that you have a couple of different options for the behavior of the pencil, which is keep selected, which is checked right now, which means when you draw something it will remain selected. If you toggle that off, once you draw something it will no longer be selected. And then also here, edit selected paths within a certain number of pixels. So this means that if you're drawing something and then you start drawing something else and you have something that is selected within 12 pixels, it will edit the existing selected path instead of creating a new path. If you don't want it to do that and for it to always draw something new, then you can check that off. But keeping this checked is what allows us to go in and modify and change something that is existing and been selected. So there we go. Those are a couple of different options, or a few different options rather, for the pencil tool to help get the look that you really want. I'm going to delete these two islands right here and put in another. Now right now they're not filled in. I want to make sure that these islands have the same color as my land. So how can I do that? Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that down here it does save the last color that you had. So if I click there, if I have this island selected and I click here, it now turns it that particular color. But I also want to point out a very important tool, the Eyedropper tool. I use it all the time. It's extremely helpful. It samples an existing color and duplicates it into whatever is selected. So let's say that I didn't have this down here, I'd been doing some other colors, but now I'm very interested in getting back to the color of my landmass here. Well, I'm going to select the Eyedropper tool right here, Eyedropper tool, and then with the island selected, I'm going to go over here to the Eyedropper tool and click it. Now notice the island is selected and my fill color is out front, so I'm going to be adjusting the color of the fill, and then I'm going to just click over here in my landmass and it will sample that color and duplicate it exactly inside this island. It's very, very useful to use the Eyedropper tool whenever you've got some colors that you don't know exactly what they are but you want to duplicate it in another place. Use the Eyedropper. It's fantastic. Now at the moment my map has a rather cartoon-like appearance, and that's because of a couple different things. One, my coastlines on both the main landmass and on the islands are very smooth. I want to increase the detail in there on the coastlines. But two, it also has this appearance because of the thickness of the stroke. So I'm going to turn that down. I want to select everything in my base land layer. So I'm going to go back over here and make sure that everything is selected. This way I can adjust the stroke, the weight of the stroke for everything in there. So I'm going to turn it down to 3. Okay. I'll let you see what that looks like. That's already looking a bit better. I also probably don't want the outline there to be black. At the moment I'm thinking I'd like the stroke color to be a darker green. So I'm going to go over here and select everything in that layer again, and then bring the stroke color to the front, and then double click on it to bring up the color picker, and I'm going to choose a dark color green. There. Again, I haven't been too specific about what particular values these are. I'm just going to say OK. Alright, I'm liking the look of that a bit better, but like I said, I really want to come in here and make these coastlines much less smooth. I want to zoom in probably and give us some detail. So I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to select the landmass so that I can edit it with the pencil tool. And now, as you see, I can come through here and really sort of make this organic, and it will change up how that looks. I don't like these smooth lines, so I want to make sure that they are really jagged. Now, as I'm drawing along here, I just got to the edge of the drawing area. Very, very handy. If I want to pan over, well, there's this tool, the hand tool. The hand allows me to pan. So if I go here and select the hand tool, then I can drag over and I can start to draw in a new area. And then I can go back to the pencil tool and I can start drawing again. Now actually, doing it that way, you can do it that way, but that's very inconvenient because what I had to do was turn off the pencil tool that I was working with, and then go and grab the hand tool, and then pan to my new location, and then get the pencil tool again, and then continue drawing. A shortcut, a very important shortcut that you're just going to love, is the ability to hold down the space bar, and it will turn whatever tool you're working with into the hand tool that will enable you to pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm down here. I'd really like to move my art. So I'm just going to hold down the space bar, and notice that now I have the hand. And now I can drag over here. And as soon as I release the space bar, I'm back to whatever tool it was that I had before I held the space bar down. In this case, the pencil tool. So if I'm going along here, and I'm going along, and then I really want to pan, I can just hold the space bar down, and then I got my tool back. This is a fantastic way to navigate along your document. That's going to save you a lot of time. We want to be able to produce fantastic effects. Cartography takes a lot of time already, but anything like that you can do to make sure that your production is a little bit smoother, a little bit faster, are fantastic shortcuts to use. Actually, using the keyboard and getting familiar with the keyboard shortcuts are fantastic ways to speed up your cartographic production. Rather than always having to go to different menus, you can go to use your keyboard shortcuts, and they will save you lots and lots of time. I'm going to finish up sort of making my coastline look a bit better. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to go over here and go to Fit to Screen. That's already looking much, much better. It's looking a bit more realistic and a little bit less cartoony. You can definitely tell the difference between this landmass and that landmass right there. Let me do the same thing to this island. Okay, well that's a pretty good start, I think. We can always change these things up as we go along, maybe add more islands or change up the shape of the coastline even more. But for now, that pretty much gets a basic form for the major land masses that are going to be here on this map. And we also learned how to use a new tool, the pencil tool.